One of our clients spent 50K, 50K on ads before working with us and had zero ROAS. That means 50K in, nothing out. Within 1 month of working with us, we flipped that. The difference, a strategy that actually works. Welcome to Bringing Simplicity Unfiltered, where we share what's actually working right now, like right now, and what's not when it comes to growing a 7-figure business, something we have a lot of experience with. So if you want the truth, the good, the bad, and the ugly, hit that subscribe button. Let's get started today, Judy.
Awesome, Greta. Yes. So, for those of you who are on, if you've ever wondered why your ads aren't converting, even when your content looks great, maybe you're somebody that paid a 50K agency. This is going to be super helpful for you if you have, or any agency at all. So if you've worked with an agency that gave you a bunch of data, you have a bunch of dashboards, and you're like, but there's no results, there's no sales, simply put. Or you thought that you just need to spend more money, to make it work, right? Like they're like, oh, we just need more ad dollars. Once we get more ad dollars, everything's going to work. Then today's episode is for you, because today we're going to shift your perspective on probably anything that you've been told about ads before. So, we're breaking down 3 things that every winning ad strategy includes. And we're going to give you examples of what has worked for our clients. And we'll show you what happened when we applied these 3 strategies into real client campaigns. And if you are somebody who's like, what's this Andromeda thing? You're gonna want to watch this episode, because we're gonna dive into it a little bit. We take client campaigns that are barely breaking even or losing money. You saw that 50K into 20x ROAS within weeks. So, Greta, what is the first step of a winning ad strategy?
Yeah. And I love that we're on Bringing Simplicity Unfiltered, because even though I spend pretty much every waking hour studying this stuff, I still struggle to say Andromeda. So you might hear Judy correct me. Although I just said it really well. I also feel like if you've been following Bringing Simplicity for a while and you decide to start researching Andromeda, you're going to be like, wow, these girls were onto something, or these ladies, or these women, or these badasses were onto something before Andromeda even released, because so much of what we're going to talk about today, we have been building into our campaigns from the get-go, because we saw that it was missing from ads. And we saw that it was a key component to actually having ads that convert. And if Andromeda sounds like a foreign language and it's not something you've even heard about because you don't spend all of your time in the ad world like me and Judy, don't worry. You don't actually need to know what that word means. It basically is just something that has dropped across all meta platforms and is leaving most media buyers scrambling, whereas Judy and I are sitting back and saying, ha, told you so. Because it is really prioritizing showing your ads and your content to individuals who are going to get the result that you're trying to get. And Meta has built in AI and all of this computer modeling to look at who's engaging with your content and showing more of that content to them, because they have found that when people engage with your content, they are more likely to buy, to book a call, to get your lead magnet. Go figure. Again, this is something that Judy and I have talked about nonstop over the last year. And that is because visibility builds trust before conversion is even possible. So where previously media buyers were only focused on things like cost per lead or getting your thing in front of people to buy, that is how people spent 50K without getting any return on ad spend. Because despite the fact that she had a large audience, the algorithm wasn't necessarily showing her content to those people. And so instead of having something feel like a natural progression to a purchase, it was something that felt like a blaring, like, I don't even know how to describe it, Judy. How would you describe it when like an ad is just sort of like, whoa, that came out of nowhere? You know, I'm
Um,
really good at analogies.
Not very good at analogy. I mean, I don't know that there's an analogy for that. But before we dive in, Greta, because I just want to really emphasize what you're saying, because I think they're like, oh, that's so fancy. Like you guys are just using fancy words. Like everybody says, like visibility builds trust. Da 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 da. Here's what even if you do have a lot of visibility, which this client did, like Greta just said, this client had a huge following. So, yes, she was going to trust an ad agency that came to her and said, hey, we're going to get you leads. You have 20,000 followers, by the way. If you guys are like, how many followers? 20,000 followers. You would think if she spent $1 on ads, she would get leads and buyers, right? Obviously not so. So in the way that Greta's about to describe on what you need to do with that visibility to create trust, simply just putting, and we're going to get to that I think in point 3, simply just continuing to put more content out there. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many followers you have. It doesn't matter how many times you post a day. If when you're doing any of these ads, which the ads Greta's going to jump into here, doesn't build trust with your audience. And there's different types of ad content to build trust. But we're probably just going to focus on one today, because if we went into all of them, you'd get super overwhelmed. Okay, and then to answer your question, Greta, about like ad creative that basically like stands out and makes your audience, is that what your question was?
Yeah, like almost turns it off. Like you're like, wait, that's not what I'm used to seeing from her. Right? Like
Mhm.
you almost get like that ick feeling, or like, ooh, I'm being marketed to, as opposed to being like, oh, what's that?
Yeah, exactly. When that's not in alignment, I guess like if I was I don't know what to say.
Oh boy.
Okay, so I think about it as like, I mean, it's expected now because people know, but there's like this big party golf tournament here in Arizona. And like when girls show up in like big platform heels to this golf course where like it's a big part, it's like the Super Bowl of golf events, golf tournaments. And you're like, oh, like she's clearly here not to watch the
Watch the
game, right? Like
ball.
she's gonna stand out and be like,
She's here for the
something
party.
doesn't fit here. Yeah, she's definitely here to but it just it pauses. It makes your audience pause and be like, "Hey, something doesn't match here."
Right. And not in a good way, because we want scroll
Right.
stopping type of stuff. So that's why I was like, it's not a scroll stopping. It's like an ick feeling, right? It's why a lot of people feel uncomfortable working with marketers. So when we worked with her, we laid out from the very beginning, and this is something that we will always be honest with people. We're not looking necessarily to get you a return on ad spend or a ROAS in that first month. Okay. And so we mentally prepared her. This month is going to be a loss. And it was also very important to us to mentally prepare her because she had had such a terrible experience, right? So I wanted to be really upfront and honest. And instead, we spent that entire first month focused exclusively on reach and awareness campaigns, which was taking her best video content. So we looked at what had performed well over the last 3 months. We also looked at, of those things that performed well over the last 3 months, what would be a good lead up to ultimately what we're going to then offer for sale. And we put that content only in front of her warm audience. So we weren't even looking to quote unquote get in front of other people. Now, with Andromeda, when you market even just to a warm audience, we had some advantage plus. Again, this is going to be so much lingo you guys don't know, but just play along with me, right? We did have some features turned on where it was like, hey, we want the bulk of this to go to her warm audience, her IG followers, the people who've interacted with her website. But Meta, you're allowed to show these ads to people who are similar to those people, right? We turned that feature on. And so what that does is it helps Meta directly correlate, ooh, these are people who have already interacted and purchased, because these people had made some purchases. And now I can start to find people who are similar, right? As Judy said, she already had an active account. She had 20K followers. She actually had some videos that had popped off pretty well. She's hilarious, by the way. We try not to include names. I wish we could, because I would tell you to go binge watch her stuff. But at a later date, we'll talk about who you should binge watch.
DM us if you on IG if you want to know who it is.
Yeah. And honestly, when we first started talking through this strategy, she was like, my warm audience is engaged. Like, good luck, guys. But I don't necessarily think this is going to result in more views, more followers, or even sales, right? Within 30 days, we saw a 34% increase in views. We saw a 131% increase in reach. And we saw a 154% increase in content interactions. Now, remember, Andromeda prioritizes reach and interactions when it's getting ads in front of people. So that's a little bit crazy. Now, the awesome part about this was we weren't even running sales campaigns. We were just running reach campaigns. However, she immediately saw increased all of those things, which also led to increased button clicks on her profile, which also led to increased opt-ins into her just organic ManyChat funnels, which also led to more DMs. It all started to compile in that first 30 days. We were not running any type of sales campaigns, and we would get messages every day. Are you guys seeing this? Like, you aren't even marketing a product. And are you seeing these sales that are coming through? Now, we didn't take credit, meaning on the back end, it doesn't show as linked to an ad, but you can see the momentum. She was able to see the momentum. And what we ended up seeing at the end of the month without running any sales campaigns actually honestly floored even us, Judy. She had a 111% increase in sales. She had a 365% increase in net sales. And she had a 121% increase in order values from the month before we were running these reach ads to the current month we were running reach ads. So anybody who's going to stop and say reach ads are a waste of money, please come and talk to us. We would love to show you our data on the back end. Obviously, there are other factors that go into this, but anybody who's immediately discrediting reach campaigns as not a part of the conversion pathway hasn't spent enough time running reach ads like we have. So I just want to emphasize again, when you focus on the visibility piece, when you look to increase those views, that reach, those content interactions, when you have more people going to your Instagram profile, you're going to have an audience that remembers you, that trusts you, that feels like they see you everywhere, and ultimately who buy from you when you are open about what it is you're selling.
Yeah, I love that, Greta. And
I get so passionate, Judy.
no, I know, but I'm also thinking, like, I like to point out, because I'm like, for all you haters out there who are like, oh, Greta and Judy, but you guys got lucky. She was spending 50,000, or, she had spent $50,000 with a marketing agency. They probably set you guys up for success. No, 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 no. They didn't even set up her account properly. We had to entirely start over. So I just want to pause because
We also waited over a year to run ads. So
yeah,
like,
we also waited over a year. So there's so much that goes into that, but I just want to point out, for those of you who are on here, who are marketers and who are media buyers, you're like, oh, they set you guys up. I'm like, nope, they didn't. And if you want to talk to me about media buyers, that's a whole nother story. But
we also spent less than $1,000 in that first month.
Yeah, and you don't have to spend with a lot. So before I go into point 2, I want to point out, like Greta said, like, most marketing agencies, most media buyers will think like reach ads are a sunk cost, all of that. For us, we look at everything. That's like if you're a basketball player and you never practice dribbling, for me. Like, you never practice free throws, you never practice the basics, right? Reach ads are going to give you a lot of information. And for us, they're the basics. And so while other people don't talk about them nearly enough because they're not sexy to talk about, you don't have a bunch of data that's like, oh, we made millions in sales or tens of thousands in sales from reach ads. Well, because of those, we do get the other results from the other campaigns. So, which comes to point 2, which is really all about like what Andromeda is all about, right? And if you guys who are on here like, man, I've been running ads and like Meta, like the last couple months, last weeks, like things have been down. Like there's always like these updates, and like it's because they're updating. They were doing all this Andromeda stuff. And so the second thing that adds to the ad strategy is, of course, ad variety, ad creative, right? And I'm going to go into this a little more here in a little bit, but like, your audience doesn't all consume content the same way. And so your ads shouldn't either, right? Like some people love, like, the way that Greta digests ads is completely different than me. Like, she scrolls to the bottom and reads. She likes to read the copy. I'm like, oh, if that image doesn't even appeal to me, I'm not clicking on anything. Like, absolutely not. And so you need different, right? You need some that are heavy text. You need some that have images in it. You need some videos. You need some short videos. You need some long videos. We mix it all in. And so the variety of your creative is super important. The old way of ads that used to work, where people would add in variety, was just changing like hooks or headlines or the text on that doesn't work anymore. So if you're doing that,
And we've never done that too.
no,
which
and
I
we've never
love
done
doing.
that. Yeah, yeah. So like for those like people who've been running at, like, I know you've been in the game for like decades. You're at least not going to be rewarded as much
Right.
anymore if you do. So yeah, you do you. Um, always go with the data. That's good, getting you the most ROAS, right? And so one client, of course, all of our clients are coaches, but already respected in this space. Again, tens of thousands of followers. And we ran both static and video ads. And the top two ads, proving that like this just goes to prove like you have to keep both. Like you just have to do both. And that also creates less ad fatigue, what people call ad fatigue as well, depending on how long you're running a campaign for. But even for us, a lot of times if we're doing, this one was specifically to a masterclass, even when we're doing to a masterclass, it's under 2 weeks, we still add in a variety of different ones, because you might be like, oh, 2 weeks isn't like that long. But like for somebody who, when ads are getting targeted to your audience, like 10, 20 times a day, that can be like too much for people. So you got to add in. His result was his cost per lead was around $4 per lead. And again, we didn't spend much in ads, under $1,000, $831 to be exact. We had over 200 registrants, and we have a 20x ROAS. All because we added in the different formats. And again, it's not just different, like, oh, new image of him here, new image of, it's not just simply that. It's where the image is located on the ad, whether it doesn't have an image, right? And then again, long video ads.
I know, long is like 45.
I know.
45 seconds, first 25 seconds.
Exactly. Yeah, a variety of that in there will really, really help reduce your ad fatigue for your audience. And again, we can't get into all the Andromeda like items on why it's doing this, but simply put, AI. There's so much that's within an ad, and there's so much that's going on with AI right now that Facebook felt like it needed to put this information in place. And remember, just so you guys know, Facebook, Meta, Instagram is a data platform first before it's anything. So anything that you see in regards to updates is like, and this, again, this isn't sexy, nobody talks about it, but data first. So everything that they're doing is to collect data. So the more you can create different ad formats, the happier it is, and the more they're gonna push ad spend, like push your ad spend that you use. So to sum it up, winning ad strategies, the second winning ad strategies, don't depend on one format. You can't just simply put out a bunch of static ads because you're like, oh, I'm just going to use Canva and like just create a bunch of text ads and add in a bunch of random images. That's not going to work. You have to mix it up to meet people where they are and how they like to consume content at every stage, or like with every campaign that you have.
Yeah. Now I want to come full circle. And you might be thinking, if you're listening to this episode, okay, you've only talked about 2 short campaigns that got success. We have clients who have been with us for more than a year. We've been running campaigns more than a year, and we consistently see over a 5x ROAS all the way up to a 20x ROAS for this specific client. And because of that, we have gotten the opportunity to see what does it mean to refresh ad creative? What does it mean to continue to keep those engagements up, that reach up, all of those things, again, that Andromeda now prioritizes, I have been thinking about from the very beginning. I want this person to always feel fresh and new, right? For any of you guys who have somebody on Instagram or otherwise that you follow all the time, you're kind of like, if they just do the same shtick all the time, you're not going to continue watching, right? So we want to make sure that when we're creating a plan for long-term success, we're thinking through how do we creatively rotate stuff where it doesn't always feel like we're selling and it doesn't necessarily just feel like I'm seeing more of her social media stuff, right? Woo, I just choked a little on my own spit. Okay, so we have been running ads for this client for over a year with consistently strong metrics. And how did we do that, right? We were very thoughtful and intentional, and you could say strategic, with the way that we were rotating types of campaign. So we actually always keep reach campaigns running. Those never turn off just because we want to make sure that their social media stuff that they're creating is constantly being seen by their audience. But we also rotate in, and it obviously benefits her in various ways, podcast episode shorts, right? So we want to draw attention to her as a thought leader. And so about once every quarter, we're releasing new podcast visibility campaigns that we run for about a month. This has helped her obviously like downloads on her podcast. Overall, it has made her podcast more successful. It also is completely different type of content than what she's showing organically on social media. And it's not necessarily directly tied to quote unquote a sale. Other than that, it's establishing her as a thought leader. Again, not a super sexy ad campaign, not something where we're like, hey, we spent this amount of money and we got you a ton. However, in combination with the other things we're doing, it just helps to build that trust and visibility. We also have rotated in new high value opt-ins. Gone are the days where you can have one opt-in for multiple years at a time and it just keeps performing. Now, she does have some that are still consistently performing, but we have rotated what we're running ads to. So it's like, oh, I've never seen that before, right? And we tend to introduce a high value opt-in about 2 months before we know she's going to do a sale or a promotion for the thing that that opt-in talks about, right? So we're getting as many leads as possible into that opt-in so that they're engaging with her website, they're engaging with the content. We're feeding metadata that these people like this thing, right? We knew Andromeda was going to want this. It's like I'm a data nerd who knew this was the stuff that Meta would talk about, right? And so this mix keeps her audience engaged and ultimately avoids ad fatigue. So even your best ads will lose impact if your audience gets bored. So the secret to keeping your message consistent, the secret is keeping your message consistent, but your creative and your types of ads fresh.
100%. That made me think of something, but I'm not going to go into it because
because we got to go to our meeting.
We got to go. But if you enjoyed this episode and you want to hear us continue to butcher how to say Andromeda, then subscribe and like to be notified when we go live again, when our next episode appears. And next week, we're going to break down how to stand out in crowded. I like to put that because everybody thinks their market's crowded before you ever run your very first ad or before you run your next ad. So we'll see you next time.